it has never been my goal to get people to agree with what I say. I'm not interested in persuasion. I'm interested in simply getting people to look at their world a little bit differently. And if they end up disagreeing with me, I'm totally fine with that, as long as they make an honest attempt to engage what I've written.
Why aren't you interested in persuasion?
Who wants to live in a world where everyone agrees with you? I mean, particularly with
Well,
this.
if you think you're right.
I don't always think I'm right, actually. I think I try ideas out, and sometimes I think I'm wrong later. I mean, there's nothing. One of the things I've never understood this about human nature. People get so upset, particularly about politicians. A politician changes his mind, and everyone's like, ooh. Well, why shouldn't a politician change their mind? I would hope they change their mind. I mean, if you don't change your mind, what's wrong with you? I mean, I change my mind all the time. If you haven't gone back, I was thinking about this. My first book was written I sort of wrote it in the late 90s. Ever thought about what you were doing and thinking in the late 90s? I would hope you have changed your mind. I mean, so embarrassing. So,
name something. Name something where you've changed your mind.
Oh, I think that the account I gave, for example, of why crime fell in New York City in the tipping point it's not wrong, it's just wholly inadequate. I mean, I'd write it totally different today. I mean, partly it's because so much has happened since then that I know so much more. Partly it's because my interests and my perspectives have changed since then. But I could go on and on.
You mean getting repeatedly profiled yourself? Would that make a difference?
What's that?
Being repeatedly profiled yourself, did that make a difference in your thinking about it?
Oh, a little bit. Although I have very, very complicated feelings about policing in New York City that I have not. See, there's a whole other branch of things where I can't resolve. So race is actually a great example. There are a whole series of things around race where I do not know what I think because I can't resolve the different positions that I have taken over the course of my life. I don't know how I feel anymore about affirmative action. I'm really, really, really deeply, and I think actually that unless you are confused about affirmative action, you're not thinking about it. I think it's an appropriate human response to say, I'm torn. And I feel that way about stop and frisk in New York City. I'm torn. Because on the one hand, it is very clear to me that the New York City Police Department has done a better job than any other police department in history of reducing crime. There's no one else. If you talk to criminologists, what's gone on in New York in the last 10 years is beyond phenomenal. It is something historians will be writing about 200 years from now. Crime is so low in New York, it's preposterous, right? Now, that has come at a cost. They have done that by empowering their police force. And occasionally that empowerment has resulted in stop and frisk, in profiling of young black men, and all kinds of things that are abhorrent to us. Now, but those same neighborhoods that have suffered through that kind of excessive and in some ways unfair scrutiny from the police have seen their crime rates drop through the floor. How do you make sense of that? I can't. I'm not smart enough to do it. And I think anyone who's honest will say, I don't know how you resolve it. I think you muddle through. I think you say to the cops, can you be a little bit more careful? I think you go to the communities and you say, can we talk about this? Can we find a way to... What you can't do, it strikes me, is stand on a soapbox and say, that's wrong and that's right. This is not an appropriate... There are tens of thousands of New Yorkers alive today who would otherwise be dead because of the New York City Police Department. What makes this issue so complicated is that an extraordinary amount of good was done for the group at the cost of an extraordinary amount of pain for a small number of people. That is precisely the kind of very difficult question that lies at the heart of a lot of the, but you have to acknowledge the two sides of it, right? Like what I'm saying, I am completely bedeviled by this. I don't know where I stand because I can't. All I know is that when you drove through those neighborhoods in Brownsville in 1990, there were no kids on the street because it wasn't safe to go outside. Now when you drive through them, they're playing outside. So someone's better off, right? Now, maybe when that same child who's playing on the street at 6 is 17 and getting stopped, he has a different perspective on it. But it's complicated. There's no room for there's no clarity here at all.